Welcome to the resilient city of London. I'm Rebecca Hintze, and I'm living in this amazing city right now, working on a postgraduate research project all around entrepreneurship and what causes entrepreneurs to thrive and how we train on it. So, I welcome you to London, and I welcome you to walk through the city with me and learn a little bit about the qualities that you need to have as a leader to succeed in your business. First of all, I wanted to say entrepreneurs are happier than people who hold other jobs, so it's important for you to know. And one of the qualities that I want to highlight as we walk through the city is the quality of resilience, because entrepreneurs go through harder times than people in regular work experiences. And you know all about that. It's rejection, it's the struggle of finances and managing, starting your own business. And yet, entrepreneurs are happier? Well, that's because they develop resilience. So let's walk through this beautiful, resilient city and see what we can learn together. New era. Meet Big Ben. You're all familiar with it. Big Ben's been around for a long time, since the 1800s. Here's the cool thing about Big Ben and what we learned from Big Ben. Big Ben is consistent. Big Ben just ticks and chimes on schedule. And one of the cool things about Big Ben is during World War II, when the UK experienced the Blitz, which was the heavy bombing that destroyed much of the city, including parts of Parliament, which are right next door, Big Ben just kept on ticking, kept on chiming, and that provided a lot of emotional strength for the people of the UK. They could always rely on Big Ben. So what do we learn from Big Ben? That we need to be consistent so that people can rely on us. So our consistent habits, our habit stacking of good positive health habits, make a difference for our own personal resilience, and our business needs that level of resilience too. So that means consistency in ways that people can rely on us, like trusty old Big Ben. New era. Right across from Big Ben is the London Eye, a more modern icon of the city. And what did we learn from modern research about consistency? First of all, we learned it's necessary. It's important for your health, your wellness, your overall well-being, and your entrepreneurial business. You need to be consistent. If you're not good at it, I'm sorry, but you need to work on it, and I'm going to give you some tips for that. If you are good at it, well done. So what does modern research tell us about how to be more consistent? Habit stacking is one of the best ideas. And you probably already know this, but it's picking the things that you know you need to do and stacking them with something you already do well. And all of you do something really well in your business. So pick something for both your health and your business where you can do some habit stacking. Also, time blocking. You've heard that wonderful tip before. Like, I'm telling you things you've heard so many times, but here's the thing. You have to do it. And everything that's hard takes effort. So if you're lacking in consistency, be willing to put forth the effort to develop good habits around your business. And remember the message of Big Ben, that consistency takes you through the hard times in your business and in your life. And you need it to be resilient. So put some priority into it. And I would offer you two challenges. One, to focus on something for your business, something for your health. Pick that now while I'm talking. Think about that, write it down, and let's be consistent with those objectives. New era. Right across from Big Ben is a statue of Winston Churchill, and we do know Winston Churchill to be one of the greatest resilient leaders in all of history. And part of the reason for that is he was responsible in great part to ending World War II because of his strategic thinking and his alliances that he formed with other countries, including Dwight Eisenhower in the United States. So think about that for you and your business. How can you strategically partner with others to succeed, to overcome the wars that you face in your business? Another thing I love about Winston Churchill is he was not going to give in to the Germans when the rest of the countries in Europe wanted to give in and negotiate and just kind of fall into Hitler. He said, no way, I'm not doing that. I am holding my ground. So hold your ground. New era. Winston Churchill isn't the only leader to be recognized for resilience. Right across from Big Ben. The trendsetter. I'll show you how I do the new era. Stepping into the new era. Say goodbye to the old era. Hello, Westminster Abbey. So what do we learn from Westminster Abbey? We learn probably one of the most important and critical lessons in resilience of all, and that is the importance of meaning and purpose. It's the why. Why are we here? What are we doing? It can even be as deep as, why are we even here on this earth? We all need to have meaning and purpose. We learned that from Dr. Martin Seligman and his theory on PERMA, which is the theory of happiness. And in that theory, he states that meaning and purpose is necessary for happiness, and it is equally necessary for resilience. So for you, what's the action item? You need to know your why. You need to know why you're here. And another thing about Westminster Abbey that I love, it's been the site for, gosh, I don't know, 1,000 years maybe, of critical events. In fact, you've probably seen them on TV, weddings and funerals and coronations and things like that. There are important events in our life, and they need to stay that way. They need to be important, and we need to have meaning in them and not forget them. At the end of the day, it's not about money. It's about what we accomplish, who we become from what we're doing. So never forget the importance of meaning and purpose and why you're here and how that will drive you to be more resilient. New era. Welcome to Hyde Park. Well, really to Kensington Palace. Kensington Palace is on the west side of Hyde Park. Kensington Palace is where William and Kate live and also where Princess Diana used to live. And there's a lot we could talk about there, but we're not going to. We're going to talk about Hyde Park for just a minute. So if you remember the author Virginia Woolf, she used to wander Hyde Park because she had a lot of mental health issues, and she would use the walks in Holland Park or in Hyde Park to self-regulate, to work through issues that she had. So let's talk about that principle for just a minute. In order for you to succeed, and this is what all the research says, so in order for you to succeed as an entrepreneur, you need to have high emotional intelligence, and you need to have the ability to self-regulate. So what that means for you is you need to be able to manage your feelings and to know what they are. You need to be able to socially read the feelings that others are having and know how to manage those relationships, and you need to have empathy. Those are the core principles inside emotional intelligence research. So I want to talk about what you can actually do with all that. So here are your action items to be able to emotionally regulate. You want to be exercising in some form that's appropriate for you, whatever it is, but exercise is great for emotional regulation. It's easy for you to do. The other thing you can do is meditation. It's fabulous for getting in touch with how you're actually feeling, kind of bringing you to a state of groundedness. You can do any kind of mindfulness walks too. You can walk out in nature and just ponder and pay attention to your emotions and figure out what you're feeling in that regard. And you can also journal out your feelings or talk them out. I love going on a walk and just talking to myself and getting all of my thoughts and feelings out in that way. That brings about that self-awareness part. And as you become more self-aware and more able to regulate your own emotions, you're going to be more effective at reading the other emotions that other people have and helping to manage the relationships better. But at the core of that whole concept of emotional intelligence is empathy, which means you've got to love yourself, got to pay attention to your own feelings and have empathy for you. So it's perfect that we're standing by a palace, because a palace kind of says, hey, you're important. And that's sort of the symbol of what a palace is. And I want to stress to all of you that you're important enough to pay attention to your own emotions. I do want to point out that all the research shows that emotional intelligence is more important for your success than your IQ. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how smart you are, it matters how emotionally intelligent you are. So that's going to be a big factor to your business. I also want to point out something you may not have paid attention to, but it's actually sunny right now, but it wasn't in the other videos. And I want to point out that some days are more sunny than others. But one thing I've learned about living in England, it doesn't matter if it's cloudy or rainy, you still got to go outside. So again, there's that big consistency factor weighing in. New era. One other thing I wanted to mention is that the research shows that for entrepreneurs to be successful, you need to have autonomy, which is the freedom to do things the way you want to do them. The principles remain the same, however. It's just how you implement them. It's entirely up to you. It's kind of like the city. There's so many ways to get places here. The tube, taxis, buses, lots of possibilities with transportation. But at the end of the day, I get to choose my route, how I'm going to go. And you do too. New era. I'm here between two bridges, the London Bridge and Tower Bridge. You probably remember the song, London Bridge is Falling Down. Luckily, it's not falling down right now. Tower Bridge is the iconic bridge behind me. And actually, you can see the Shard behind me as well. So why are we here, and how does that relate to you and to your business? Well, because we know successful entrepreneurs like you need to be resilient. There is a theory, the ecological system theory, that says that resilience is the bridge between adversity, the hard times that we go through, and our personal growth. It's what takes us there. So developing resilience is very physical too. If we look at neurological resilience, it happens when our limbic system of our brain can work really well or bridge itself between the executive center of our brain. We teach a lot of that at doTERRA on how to use our essential oils and our products to strengthen that neurological relationship between our emotions and our thoughtful executive mind. Why does that matter? It matters, it totally matters because your ability to do that is all about your ability to succeed as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs go through hard times more so than others types of work that you can do. And yet the interesting thing is research says that entrepreneurs are happier than people in regular jobs. So having resilience will carry you on to success. Having resilience will lead you to greater sense of well-being and happiness. And resilience is something that you can do. You just need to decide you're going to do it. New era. We're a little bit closer to Tower Bridge now, and Tower Bridge connects North and South London. That's what bridges do. They connect people. We always hear the saying, don't burn your bridges. We don't want to burn bridges in relationships. We want to build them and we want them to be strong. But in the event that you have burned bridges, as many of us have, we can rebuild them. And that's the message of Tower Bridge and London Bridge and a lot of old bridges. They have been knocked down and they have been rebuilt. And when they've been rebuilt, they have been rebuilt with strength. So that is a quality of resilience, the ability to connect, first of all, to be a connector inside yourself, connection, inner connection, outer connection, but also the ability to rebuild bridges that have been burned. The other thing that I wanted to mention about this bridge in particular is that during World War II, it became a protection to people during bombings. People actually bunkered down underneath Tower Bridge. And that is something that our bridges do provide for us. They are a protection to us in our life and in our business, a connection and a protection. So definitely worth rebuilding. New era. Behind me is the Tower of London. It was founded by William the Conqueror in 1066, and it's been a symbol for both power, but also it's been a prison. So let's talk about it in terms of resilience. So often the thoughts and ideas that we have, the stories that we tell ourselves, lock us into a prison. You know what I'm talking about? Those limiting beliefs, limiting ideas that prevent us from moving forward in our business. They can become like a prison. This was also where Anne Boleyn was beheaded. You may feel like you beheaded yourself in your business or that someone else has beheaded you. You can also feel like you've been locked up and unable to move forward. A lot of that comes from inside the mind. Post-traumatic growth is a theory in psychology that says we can move past PTSD or post-traumatic experiences and turn them to work for our good. And we do that by working with our mind to begin to believe that we can do things. By looking at experiences that we've been through that are hard and finding the benefits in them, looking for the positive growth opportunities that have shown up in our traumas and being patient with ourselves. But ultimately, it's all about changing how we perceive things, letting go of the stories we've told ourselves about our reality and how things are. So at the Tower of London, I would like to invite you to drop down your prison walls. You can hold up your guard and have boundaries, but I'm talking about the walls of your own thoughts that block you from moving forward in life. And I want to invite you to move from PTSD to post-traumatic growth. If you feel like you've been through trauma in your doTERRA business, you can flip it and make it work for your good. New era. So we're in South Kensington, London, and this is an area during World War II that was heavily bombed during the Blitz. So you're going to see that there's a memorial over here, and this is an area where they just acknowledge that there's shrapnel damage. You see it right here. This is the shrapnel damage from the bombing, and it's all over. And you know what? They never cleaned it up. So what do we learn from this? Well, we learned a lot. First of all, this whole area was so bombed that most of the buildings were destroyed and they've had to be rebuilt. And it's interesting that they rebuilt a lot of them with museums. So right across from me is the Natural History Museum and the Science Museum. And right down the way here is the V&A or the Victoria and Albert Museum. So how does that all tie together? Well, when we go through hard things like bombings in our life, we learn stuff and we get educated from that. Our failures are the way that we learn. Resilient people know that. And resilient people are able to look at what happened in their life and they don't cover it up. Look, this isn't covered up or repaired. from World War II. They kept it to say, hey, this happened. We experienced this, but look what we have done with it. We have created museums, we have learned, and you can also do that. You can look at the hard times in your life, you can be resilient and pull through them. You don't have to be embarrassed about them or hide them in a hole. You can come forward and acknowledge them and look at what you learned from them. The researcher Barbara Friedrichsen was she's famous for coming up with the benefit finding theory in psychology, which is that when we look at hard things and we find the benefit in them, we see that our brain actually expands and we eliminate depression as we do that and we become more successful. That follows the theory of appreciative inquiry, which means that we look at things that are working rather than the things that aren't working in order to grow and to learn. The bottom line is we need to grow into growth mindset, which brings to mind the research from Carol Dweck, who wrote the book Growth Mindset. And she's the researcher who uncovered all of that, which is still all the same thing, which is bottom line, we go through hard things to learn, to grow. It gives us a growth mindset. We benefit find, we find the things that are working for us, and we move forward with our new knowledge. That's how we learn and grow. So that's what we learned from South Kensington, to take the hard things that we've been through and flip them, benefit find, and create a bunch of knowledge because of it. New era. Here we are at Buckingham Palace, and I know you're all looking to create your own palace. You want to achieve your rank, you want to achieve your goals and your income, and we want you to get there, and resilience is going to be your way. Consistency. Be like Big Ben and be consistent in your efforts. Be like Winston Churchill and be strategic in your decision making and forge alliances that will help you to grow. Be like Hyde Park and be mindful. Grow in your emotional regulation and your emotional intelligence. Be like Westminster Abbey and find meaning and purpose in what you're doing. And most of all, always believe in yourself. Believe you are the king, the princess, the queen, the person deserving to receive what it is that you want. And as you apply these principles, I promise you, you'll find success in life and in business. New era. Here we go. New era. Yeah. You ain't never seen nothing like this. Hey, hey, hey. I'm about to blow your mind with